welcome in to the newest episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast. Glad to have you all here with us, joining us for episode 77 of the pod. Today, we're going to be covering and breaking down the 13th episode of the third and final season of The Bad Batch. Excited to get into that, as well as a lot of other exciting news in the world of Star Wars. But before we get into that, want to issue a quick reminder that if you're not yet subscribed to the Hoth Hangout podcast over on YouTube, definitely check us out there for the video version of every single week's podcast. Shout out to the 415 of you who are currently subbed there. We are only 85 away now from that big 500 mark. So thank you to all of those of you who are subscribed over on YouTube. Additionally, you can contact us via email at hothhangout@gmail.com with any Star Wars related thoughts or questions, and we'd love to showcase them here on the pod as well. You can find the Hoth Hangout podcast wherever you get your pods, including Spotify and Apple. And if you're listening on either of those platforms or any platform that allows you to leave a 5-star review, leave a 5-star review. We would appreciate it very much. Also allows the podcast to more easily be discovered by other folks as well. Additionally, you can find us over on the Hoth Hangout community Discord server. The link to join the Discord will be in the description of today's podcast episode in the show notes below. Definitely check that out and shoot us your thoughts or questions over on Discord and any of the show specific channels, perhaps, that we have over on the Hoth Hangout Discord server. Again, link will be down in the show notes of today's episode. We've got lots to talk about in today's episode. Want to sort of tease our way in with a question. Are we going to see any of these clone Palpatines that they've been hinting at in the last two, or in the last two episodes of Bad Batch? Will we see any clone Palpatines? I don't know. That and more will be what we'll be discussing today. Joey, what's going on, man? We gonna see any clone Palpatines?
The next episode is gonna only be clone Palpatines. That's all we're gonna
Mm.
see. There's gonna be no Omega. It's just gonna be it's gonna be a 4-minute episode, and it's just gonna be them, and it's gonna cut to black, and then we go wait for the next episode. No, we're doing well. We're starting a little early today because we're trying a new recording time to see how it works for not only you and me, Ben, but also with Gibbo, the producer. So got a little bit mixed up on my time conversions from here to Australia. So my bad. I'm bad at math. But we're here. We're going to have some fun, the three of us, and yeah, we're going to talk more. One of the last times we're going to talk about new episodes of The Bad Batch.
Yep, yep. After this week, only 2 weeks left of new Bad Batch episodes. By the way, I blame daylight savings time.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
well, yes, it is another wonderful episode of the podcast with all three of us here, and we've got lots to discuss. And so let's go ahead and hop right into some of our news for this week. Before we start talking anything Bad Batch, we have a couple things in the world of Star Wars to talk about. Nothing directly related to the shows, but our first piece of news is something that I know you hold very near and dear to your heart as a collector, and specifically as a Star Wars collector. It is the 25th anniversary of Lego Star Wars, since Lego started making Star Wars products, officially licensed Lego Star Wars products. And there's some new drops coming out in about 2 weeks' time. Isn't that right, Joey?
Yeah, they have they have these things called UCSs, the Ultimate Collection series. Those are normally the bigger scale ones, 1,500, 2,000 piece builds that we have. So the first one that they're releasing around the time of the May the 4th is the TIE Interceptor fighter. So
Mm.
this one is going to go for $229. It's a 1,920 piece build, and it looks real cool. I think they actually did release one before, but yeah, they're redoing it here. There's one minifigure there, I believe it is Vader, and we have the little plaque there to show a little bit more. So yeah, this is going to be a very cool piece for anybody who can afford to get it. Unfortunately, I don't think it's kind of out of my budget, but I'm sure there's a lot of collectors out there who's going to love it. And another thing that I loved about this particular build and how they're marketing this, they put a little video out for
Mm.
for this. I don't. Had you seen it at all, Ben?
No, no, I saw it in our podcast notes, and so I
Okay.
avoided, seeing any videos of this so that you could get my genuine first time reaction to
Okay,
it.
this is something that's supposed to hype you up. So I think
Alright,
this is,
alright.
if anything, it'll show you a little bit more about how real Lego builders have fun with their Legos. So let's see how this looks.
Alright. Okay. Alright. That last one's pretty good. I don't know about that one. I feel like
So
you need to show this
I'm gonna have to
video
do
to
this.
someone out of context.
Oh, it's actually just a TIE fighter. I'm sorry. Not Vader. It's actually just
Sound
a
effects not included.
sound effects not included. Yeah, adults welcome. There you go.
That was great. For those of you listening to the audio version of the podcast, you're probably like,
I have no idea.
"What are we listening to right now?" That was a fun little, like, not fan made, but, like, fan inspired video of people who it looked like had maybe recently completed the build of the, TIE Interceptor fighter and, were making these sound effects of it zooming
Yes,
through space, presumably, so,
yes. So
in case
correction,
you're
it
an
was a TIE
audio
fighter.
listener.
Yeah, it is a TIE fighter pilot that's in the
Okay,
build.
TIE
It looks
fighter
like there.
pilot.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
But, yes, I can relate to that a lot as a Star Wars fan. I feel like most Star Wars fans out there at some point or another have imitated a TIE fighter at some point in their life.
Right. Yeah, and probably needed a lozenge afterwards because that is a very high pitched noise.
Yeah. That'd be a fun episode of the podcast to do sometime when it's like a
Oh yeah.
very like when it's not a show heavy period. We just
Mhm.
bring someone on and we have contests to see who can do the best Star Wars imitations of various vehicles, animals, and
Yeah.
people.
Imagine the audio listeners on that one. Yeah, we would definitely drop viewership.
Yeah, that might have to be a video, a YouTube exclusive episode or
Yeah.
something. Be kinda hard to follow just on the audio, but yeah, that was cool. I liked watching that, it was funny. We got to see that, but we don't stop there, we've got more, isn't
Yeah, we
that
don't
right?
stop there. Yeah. Yes. So I mean, there are what Lego does. They have these things called gifts with a purchase. So if you purchase a certain amount of any Lego, you get like these free gifts as part of it as well. So here's one. There's AT. For $40 or more on any Star Wars purchases, you get this one for free. This is a smaller build, obviously, but it's free as as part of the purchase, which is really cool. There's also a troop carrier,
Mm.
which is a little bit more. You see a few more minifigures in this one that are battle droids. This one looks like it's 262 pieces, but if you purchase anything $160 of Star Wars Lego or more, you get this one as well. So if you were to buy this TIE Interceptor fighter, which is $229, you would get those two for free as well, which I think is
Mm.
pretty cool. But does not stop there for Lego Insiders. It's kind of like their frequent buyer program, I think. For Lego Insiders, they have this cool Battle of Yavin gift. It looks like looks like it's kind of like a metal, but it has um the the trench run essentially. That's kind of what it looks like. This is the kind of from the view of
Oh, yeah.
Vader's radar. You can kind of see the red outline for the X-wing and everything like that. So pretty cool piece there. And if you buy anything $90 or more, you get this one for free as well. Now this
Oh,
one's a little
wow.
different. This is an art piece. You don't get this for free if you get the any purchases. But if you are a Lego Insider and you could like basically redeem this for 1,800 Lego Insider points. So,
So,
and the way you
my
get that is every dollar you spend, or sometimes it's double, depending on it. You get every dollar you get a point, and that type of thing. So
okay.
essentially, if you've spent over, around $1,800 at this point, you can get this insider art piece, which is real cool. I kind of like this. It's basically a bunch of characters in their Lego forms. You'll see Grogu, you got Jabba, you've got people like Leia, of course, Vader, 3PO. So it's a pretty cool piece.
Yeah, that was my next question. What's the breakdown of points to actual dollars conversion ratio
Right, and like I
of
said, sometimes they've got like bonus things where it's like 2 times points. For
right?
every dollar, it's 2 points and things like that. So depending on that, I do have to look at my insider points. I don't think I'm quite there. I'm probably closer to. Is my wife listening? Probably closer to about 1,400, maybe. So I wouldn't quite be able to get this, but cool piece for anybody who can.
Yeah, that is really cool. This might be actually, I mean, I this think this might be my favorite piece of anything you've shown. I mean, the tie was pretty cool. That's probably the best. But I would think this would
Mhm,
just be a cool art piece to own regardless. I
mhm.
think I really like the style of it has almost like a
Yeah.
little bit of a like Lego meets vintage, if you will. Kind of
Right.
that style of look to it.
And
Um,
they did mention it was limited edition. I don't know how many
mm.
too, but I mean, even more so.
There you go. By the way, it is also cool, worth noting, mentioned earlier that this is the 25th anniversary of the Lego Star Wars since Lego started making Star Wars officially licensed products. It's cool how some of the free gifts they're including with the larger purchases are Phantom Menace based
Mhm.
vehicles, which if I'm not mistaken, the first Lego Star Wars to ever come out came out during the same month of the release of the Phantom Menace back in 1999. So I would assume
Oh.
that's probably why, because the 25th anniversary of Episode One coincides with the 25th anniversary of Lego Star Wars. That's probably why they're doing mostly Phantom
Mhm.
Menace for the free inclusion products, but worth noting as well. Gotta show some love to the Battle of Naboo.
Of course. But yeah, it's definitely a cool weekend coming ahead for any Lego collectors for sure.
Yeah, there's so much that goes on that's really cool stuff in the world of Star Wars, on, that May the 4th week. Lots of exciting stuff to look forward to. Early access, though, May the 1st, if you're interested in checking out, some of these products, head on over to lego.com and, just type in Star Wars in the search bar, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. They've even got this big countdown timer, less than less than 14 days is the time of this recording. Check it out over on lego.com.
Not sponsored
N
yet.
not hashtag not sponsored, yeah.
Yet, hopefully.
Two yet, there you go. Two big pieces of gaming information we wanted to share. The first of which concerns Joey, one of your favorite games, and a game that I quite enjoy as well. Although I tried to play it yesterday for the first time in a while and had some difficulties, but a new Fortnite and Star Wars collaboration coming on May the 3rd. Of course, another great thing happening on that first week of May during the festivities of Star Wars Day. I read the article. I honestly don't know much about it other than the 25-30-second trailer that they shared. The quote on it was, "We have a good feeling about this. Star Wars is returning to Fortnite." Is this gonna be like a reiteration of being able to use lightsabers in the game, or is there any speculation or confirmations about what this really is?
I'm not sure if there's where the line of speculation and confirmation is, but from what I've heard anyway, there is talk of Chewie's bowcaster going to be in game
Oh, cool.
as one of the weapons. So that'll be kind of fun to play using that. There's some skins that are supposedly going to come out. I think there might be a new Leia skin. And of course, there's going to be a lot of other in-game cosmetics. They normally have a pickaxe of some sort, some back bling, or a backpack. So
Mhm.
we'll see. We'll see exactly what it is. But it was knowing that it was coming up May the 4th. You knew that maybe if Fortnite was going to do anything, or if any other games were going to do anything, it would be during that weekend. Also, to say though that there are other things that are in Fortnite now that will probably include the Star Wars collaboration, including the Lego Fortnite, as well as the festival. It kind of even says specifically on this little 30-second ad here. So there may be some more cosmetics that are available there, maybe some type of Star Wars car wraps and things like that. So we'll see. It's gonna be a good weekend for gaming for sure.
Yeah, definitely so. This coming to Fortnite on May 3rd. And then this is certainly a big positive piece of news in the world of gaming. Our next piece of gaming news as it relates to Star Wars could be argued slightly more negative, maybe more than just slightly. Last week, we reacted to the release of the new story trailer for Star Wars Outlaws. That video is available over on the Hoth Hangout YouTube channel if you're interested in checking out that 5 or 6 minute video or so over there. But there was a lot of backlash after it was announced, and there's still a little bit of controversy as to exactly what this means. But basically, to provide a little bit of backstory to this, in the story trailer, it was revealed that Jabba the Hutt had this role in the game. And then after the fact, there was an announcement by Ubisoft, the developers of the game, that said, "Play the exclusive Jabba's Gambit mission at launch." The season pass explainer reads, AKA, like, buy the season pass and you'll be able to, like, play this exclusive thing that wouldn't otherwise be available unless you paid more money, is kind of the gist of
Hmm.
what this backlash is about here. So essentially, it's a little bit unclear if the Jabba mission will be available to everyone, but what seems to be the case is that it won't be available to everyone at the onset of the game unless you pay for either the gold edition
Extra.
or the ultimate edition.
Yeah.
Right. Which, if you're counting both of those respectively, are $110 for the gold and 130 for the ultimate.
Oh my
I don't even
gosh.
it doesn't list in the article what the base version of the game. Typically, these are like 60, $70. Um, so you're looking at, like, if you are picking up the game for, let's say, $60, you're looking at another $50 to $70 here just to have probably like a couple missions, maybe some exclusive items. Um, Jabba the Hutt is probably gonna be like the big sell behind buying the season pass, apart from maybe like leveling up more quickly. I would assume that's a piece of it as well. But I don't know. I personally don't feel like what little we know about what is going to be included with the season pass merits this exponentially higher cost for me personally. I don't even know if I'm gonna pick up the game yet. I think I am, but I don't know. I'm kind of like, the jury is out for me personally. I want to hear more about the game. I'm definitely interested by it, but it feels like there's some kind of negative feedback. What did you think about this when you saw, first of all, the price of the gold and ultimate editions? Second of all, that the Jabba's mission might be paywalled.
So we've played games that has season passes, right? We've played
Yeah,
Fall Guys, we've played Fortnite, and normally those are pretty minimal. Those are pretty, $5, $10,
right.
not
20 at
not
most.
anything crazy, 20 at most, right? But here, even before we get the game in our hands, you're saying that one of the missions that you definitely want to play as a bounty hunter, as a scoundrel, with Jabba the Hutt is going to be not included in the base game. They did mention something about, oh, everybody will be able to experience it. What does that mean? That you're gonna walk by and see Jabba kind of like
Yeah.
just walking by. Because that's what it could mean, right?
Or 6 months from
So
now, they release it to everyone, or it could be something like that.
exactly,
But yeah,
exactly. So I don't know the context around it. It is very confusing. I mean, they worded it exactly how they worded it, just because they want to remain ambiguous and remain kind of secretive about it. But the price is just that it's ridiculous. That is way because you're almost paying twice as much as you would have paid. If
right.
if it is a $60 game, then it's 130 all of a sudden. Obviously that's more, but or if it's a $70 game, maybe a little, not quite twice, but still that is a lot. That's a lot of coin to be throwing around about a game that I worry about now, because even myself, I'm considering just not buying it all off of principle, because that's kind of a terrible model to have a game, especially because this what hurts the most. When's the last like Star Wars game that came out like new? I guess Jedi, Survivor came out, and
Yeah,
that was pretty
Jedi game.
successful, but as far as something that was really reaching for out of the box, not anything Jedi, not anything Sith like, but a scoundrel, a bounty hunter, something kind of on the outskirts of what you would normally get in a Star Wars game. If they were to offer this for a Jedi game or anything like that, people would probably jump on a little bit more. But as we saw, kind of in even on our own reaction comments, and we'll go back to that in a little bit. Not everyone's completely excited for this. So now
Right.
to throw this on top of it, this is one of those situations that I worry like, well, the game will be dead in the water before it even gets a chance because of the way they've marketed, the way they've priced things out. So even myself, like I said, I'm skeptical if I'm gonna even pick it up because of this. Because if they're gonna paywall that, what if they add a whole other mission? You're gonna have to pay again. You know what I mean? So that's a slippery slope to go on, and I'm not exactly excited for it.
By the way, I looked it up. Base price is 70 instead of
Yeah.
60, which is like, I mean,
Right.
it's enough that we're like living in 2024 where the base price of most games now is like $60. But like $70, it's just, and it gets to the point where it's like the excitement levels for this game, I don't know if they warrant it being a $70 base version of the game. Like, that feels like what I should be paying for the ultimate edition or whatever, you know?
Hmm.
Like, give me like 30 or $40 for the base version of something like this. That price point seems so high to me for this game, as the base version, and like we said, 110, 130 for the gold and ultimate editions. I don't know. I am, cautious about purchasing this game, I guess. I'll have
Same.
to, read more, look for
Yeah.
more, but, let us know if
This might
you're,
be a wait till a launch. I'll wait till the launch to see what
yeah,
happens,
yeah,
and then go
check it
from
out the
there.
first week or 2, maybe if it looks good, wait a year and, the price will be down 20, $30 or something, but, let us know if you're interested in picking up Star Wars Outlaws yourself. Seems like it's gonna be a pretty cool game, but, there's a lot of flags around it, including price points, so let us know. We do have a couple comments we wanted to showcase. These are not necessarily from the Bad Batch, but these are actually more so directly related to Star Wars Outlaws in the video we posted last week, where we reacted to the trailer. The first one is from Anthony. Good to hear from you again, Anthony. Welcome back into the pod. Anthony said, "Good reaction, Ben and Joey. I'm interested for the story mode of this. Love the introduction of a brand new crime syndicate in Zarek Besh with new character Slero as its leader. He was kind of the slimy antagonist, if you will, in the trailer. Anthony went on to say, "It's curious to me that we've yet to hear mention of Black Sun Crime Syndicate within the scenario. I have a feeling that there will be a soft parallel between the events of this story and those of the original trilogy. Since hearing of this game and seeing its various trailers, I've been contemplating how some of these characters may figure into the Mandoverse, especially the upcoming theatrical releases. We'll see. May the force be with you, gentlemen." Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I don't know if they're gonna go for any crossover stuff. This feels to me like I feel like the game would be better served if they just kind of did its own thing, but at the same time, it's like, you know, this is what we talked about in our reaction afterwards, actually. It's like, do you insert characters like Jabba the Hutt, Han Solo, Leia, Luke, for the sake of providing excitement at the risk of, like, messing up current, storylines or plot? Or do you just say, let's make this its own thing, avoid any difficult like crossover stuff, avoid putting all the legacy characters and just kind of make it its own thing. Having said that, I would love to see some more Black Sun stuff in here, and maybe even like Crimson Dawn, getting more of that story that we saw kind of towards the second half of Solo. Maybe getting to see Kira, who apparently did make a debut in this trailer, I wanna say, and we'll talk about that more in another
Right here.
comment as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you, Anthony, for that, comment as well, and I really am looking forward to seeing Slero. He seems like a pretty cool antagonist in the game. And then to relate directly to Anthony's comment, Kid Caduceus also said, "That was Kira in the beginning, right?" I still don't know, to be honest with you. I think it is, but I'm
Yeah.
not positive.
Didn't we confirm that? I thought we confirmed that it was Kira, but it will not be played by Amelia Clark though, from what I understand. At the beginning of that, there's like a quick shot of somebody who looks like Kira, and I believe that actually was confirmed that it was her. But
Yes.
like I said, Amelia Clark will not be the one voicing that, if there is even any particular dialogue for that character. So yeah.
And that would lead us to think that we will see Crimson Dawn in a pretty or hopefully
Hmm.
relatively prominent role, but, yeah, I mean, that's another example of a crossover that they've gone ahead with. I don't think it holds the same weight as, like, a Han Solo
Right.
or
I mean,
Jabba the Hutt
I
crossover.
mean, it's Solo, you know? Like,
Yeah,
that's not it's not like a true, original trilogy movie,
right.
but, so I think that if they wanna stay in that realm, kinda not go right into the OT, but maybe just some if you include a Jabba, I think that's okay. If you include, Kira, I think that's okay. But, if we start bringing in Han and Lando and all those other players in during that time, I think that causes almost anxiety for people to be like, now I need to play this game because I want to know more about it, and now they're like, oh, by the way, it's $130 if you want to play as Lando, or so so I think that it would be better served, like you said, to kind of be its own thing.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. Thank you to Kid Caduceus for that comment, and our last comment today from Fake Nugget, uh, said that it looks a really generic Star Wars game. Character running around with a little sidekick creature robot. I feel like this is kind of like a reference to kind of the Jedi, Fallen Order and Survivor games because like
Hmm.
Cal Kestis has the little companion robot with him as well. But name
Hmm.
drop a few well-known characters to initiate the member berries, whatever that means. But that's kind of just what we've been talking about already, more or less. Like, we saw the Han Solo in Carbonite, we saw Jabba the Hutt.
Hmm.
Of course, I guess we should mention in case you haven't seen the trailer or heard about the game, it takes place between episodes 5 and 6, which is why we're getting so much of that, kind of early Return of the Jedi stuff that we see towards the beginning of that film, so, I don't know if I can say it looks generic because it's, like, one
Right.
of the very first, like, truly, like, open world Star Wars games we've had, and so I'm willing to give it a shot and give it a chance. So, generic, no,
At
but, like, I
$50.
right, yes, like, let me buy this for 40 or $50, not 70 to $130, that's all I'm saying. But thank you to all 3 of our commenters who we showcased this week. Feel free to comment on any of the podcast episodes, and we can showcase your, feedback on the next week's episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast. And then kind of, moving us into more of our Bad Batch discussion, we asked last week on the Hoth Hangout podcast, will Rampart betray the Bad Batch? Over on YouTube, the majority said no, that he will not. He will stay true to the Bad Batch, with 62% of voters saying no, he will not betray them, 38% saying yes, he will. And once again, the folks on Twitter, aka X, being the pessimistic bunch they are, says 100% of the votes, yes, he will betray the Bad Batch. I gotta admit, this week's episode kind of made me more in the yes, he will betray them camp. But I'm still holding out for our buddy Rampart. I think he'll perhaps make some kind of a sacrifice in the last 2 episodes. You never know. I'm holding out hope for that, but it remains to be seen.
Vice
Stay on
Admiral.
the yeah, yeah, Vice Admiral, now Captain apparently. But still higher than lieutenant, as we'll talk about in the episode, discussion as well, but, yeah, kind of a fun character that they brought back into the fold and gonna obviously play a relatively significant role in the last 2 weeks of the show too, including, this week's episode, of course, which we watched, you and I, just about, 12 hours ago,
It
13
was like,
hours
yeah,
ago?
14
They were
hours ago,
finished.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, having gone through all of our news and comments and feedback, it's about time to dive into episode 13 discussion and breakdown. Before we get into any of the specifics, I think the obvious elephant in the room here is that we have 2 episodes left of the entirety of this show. The Bad Batch members are clearly not with Omega at the beginning nor at the end of this week's episode, which was, I think, for me, a little bit surprising. I thought it was going to be a reunification episode, especially with the name of the episode being Into the Breach, kind of hinting at, all right, we're beginning our, getting into Mount Tantus by the Bad Batch is kind of where I thought we were going. When in reality, we spent most of the episode just, again, finding the means to get to Tantus. Now it seems like we're finally there. We've only got 2 more episodes left of the show. It feels like we have a considerable amount of, if not questions, like at least stuff that we hope they're gonna tie up. There's a lot of like small things that I could probably point to, but if you had to pick one thing that you really want to I guess that would make the show feel like a good, complete ending. And you can take it in terms of the Bad Batch, you can take it in terms of Omega, you can take it in terms of anything else. What would be the one thing that you wanna see from the last 2 weeks?
I think I mentioned it last year. Just closure. Give me something that I can walk away with and not feel like I just watched Lost again. you know, I think I just want. I'll say it again. Um, I mean, there are little things here and there that I would kind of nice to haves, right? A nice to have would be the operative. Who's that? You know, that's not completely necessary to the end of the story, but it'd be nice. It'd be nice to know, who that was. And obviously, where is everyone going to end up? Where,
Mhm.
because we still have all of these players in there. We've got most of the Bad Batch. We've got Omega, of course. You got characters like Emery. We got characters like Hemlock. We have all the and Rampart now kind of reintroduced to us. Where are they going to be at the end here? That's kind of what I liked about like Rebels. At the end of Rebels, we kind of knew, although we didn't know what was going to happen to all of them. Each character had their end. You know,
Mhm.
if we can get something similar to that, whether it's they end up in Pabu or they end up, not making it out, at least we know, we could end the series and say, okay, we know where all of these people are. That's kind of what I would hope in the last couple episodes.
Yeah, with Rebels in particular, it felt like they used a really good portion of that last episode to sort of tell the epilogue of multiple characters' stories. It feels like we're running out of time for that same thing in Bad Batch, to be completely honest. But having said that, I feel like they can do justice with the last 2 episodes. I just don't think it's gonna be the same way that Rebels did it, like, telling a complete epilogue for every character. Like, I don't think we're gonna as much as I would love to see the bounty hunters, I don't think we're gonna see them. As much as I would love to find out who the operative is, I feel like we made a lot out of that for, like, 2 or 3 episodes, and now this was the 2nd week in a row where we didn't even see the operative in the episode. So like, I don't know. I think a lot of our questions aren't gonna be important in the long run, and what's really the direction they're gonna take is more very Omega centric, or just Bad Batch centric in general. But I feel like Joey, you might end up with a little bit of the lost syndrome with this show, having some questions in 2 weeks time from
Don't
now.
do it
Well,
to me.
but
Yeah, we find out late. We find out later that the hidden director was what's his name?
oh,
Uh,
Abrams,
yeah, J.J. Abrams. It was
JJ Abrams.
a ghosted director this entire time, or writer this entire time.
Be funny. Um, yeah, I mean, like we mentioned earlier, there's really still two separate stories going on in this episode, as evidenced by the beginning of episode 13 when we open up with Omega still, in the vault on Tantus. At first we thought maybe some time had passed, but then pretty quickly she's like introducing herself to other members of the children who are in captivity, which makes us think, okay, this is probably like very shortly after she was in prison in the vault. And this other kind of a background story of this entire portion is there's this other doctor, Scald is her name, and she and Emery are kind of butting heads a little bit, and Emery kind of claims rank on her. She's like, "I'm the chief scientist," and because the Scald wants to keep Omega like under watchful eyes, and you know, she's worried Omega's gonna break out again. Essentially, what we're trying to say, but so this first scene in the vault, Omega is hanging out with all the other force sensitive children, or excuse me, high M count children. I guess we
Yeah,
technically don't know
we
that
don't know.
they're
We don't know what we don't know here.
right. Like, does high M count equal force sensitivity? We're not sure. Eva, Jax, Baron, and Sammy. I don't think we knew Sammy's name before this week's episode.
Mhm.
Might be wrong on that, but it seemed like that was the first time we got the name of the child from the same species as Senator Chuchi that we saw in 2 weeks ago. Um, and so Omega kind of conveys to them this plan that or first she's like, what if I told you I've broken out of here before?" And immediately they're all like, "Oh, what?" So throughout the duration of the episode, you get this back and forth between the Bad Batch and Omega's story of her like slowly trying to plan this breakout. Um, and then there was that sweet scene with Eva as well, where she sees that Eva has the doll that she made back at the very beginning of season 3 that Emery gave to her, which to me hinted at Omega, and I'd love to know what you thought about that. To me, this gives Omega an inkling of, okay, Emery like can be trusted
Yeah, that's
because
true.
she sees Emery has given this doll, or at least confided in a way that none of the other Imperials can.
Yeah, and
Uh,
Eva even says as much that, she's the nice one.
right, right,
She's the nice
exactly.
one of the crew. And part of me like thinks that Omega's maybe like, "Hey, that's my doll. What? There's no way that you're gonna keep that's my doll. You're gonna." I was hoping she was gonna be like, that's gonna be mine. So she's gonna pull rank on her.
There's a lot of pulling rank in in this week's episode. But that's kind of another thing about this scene in particular. It felt like Omega was so much older and wiser. Like you got the sense that she was not just like age-wise older than the other kids, but maturity-wise older than the other kids. She's been through a lot more probably likely. She's been on all these missions and through all this stuff with the Bad Batch that she's had to undergo and just kind of a calm, cool, collected take in this scene. So maybe that's why she wasn't like, "Hey, that's my doll." Kinda understands the necessity that Eva has to have something to cherish and to love in a place where, quite frankly, there's, very devoid any sense of love in a place in a prison of the Empire, so, kind of switching gears with the Bad Batch, we also got to see Echo for the first time in quite a while in this episode. That was a welcome surprise. It was getting to the point where it was like, "Okay, is he coming back soon? Is he gonna be in the rest of the show?" Which also should bring up another point. I don't wanna take us down the tech, thing again, but still out
I think
there,
it,
I'm just saying.
I I think I'm sad to say I think that's over. I think that line's done.
I feel like they've just kind of ignored the tech stuff for so many weeks now, or maybe they've not ignored it. Maybe they just genuinely like, "He's gone, don't worry about it, we're not even gonna discuss it." Like,
Right,
maybe
right,
he's
yeah.
just genuinely gone. Maybe we just had false hope for so long that we,
I'm curious of what, the writers and directors like thought about the tech line here. If they really thought people were like, "No, he's coming back for sure," only for this to never happen. You know what I mean?
right.
Because they wouldn't have dangled it in front of them like as much as I feel like they dangled a little bit,
Yeah.
because you got somebody like the operative. They kept showing like they had the like his goggles in the last episode with Omega there. So there was
Mhm.
definitely like reminders that he was even around at some point. So I felt like that I thought that was deliberate, but I don't I'm curious and they were like, "Oh, we'll just throw something in there." They won't even think much about it.
Yeah. Yeah, my tech hopes have been dashed pretty heavily, but there's that you never know, that 1% chance he might make a surprise appearance in the last 2 episodes. We'll see.
You must be on YouTube, not Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. The folks on Twitter would disagree with me, but, Echo, of course, meets Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair, who have the recently, I don't wanna say abducted because technically they freed him, but the recently acquired, uh, former Vice Admiral,
Free
Rampart,
agent.
now yes, free agent, pseudo captain, it goes by many different titles, but essentially the plan they have in order to get to Tantus is because Tantus is hidden, the coordinates are hidden, and you have to get them, uh, by docking over this one bay on Coruscant. Their plan is to dock at Coruscant, use these stolen clearance codes, which was funny during the reaction, you were like, "It's an older code, but it checks out."
If you didn't think of
Um,
that quote, I mean, you're not a Star Wars fan. I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to
yeah.
gatekeep,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's
yeah.
definitely anytime you hear clearance codes, that'd be right there.
Have have you seen the Family Guy version of,
It's
that
been a
Star Wars?
while. It's been a while. Blue
When they
Harvest,
s
right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Blue Harvest, when they say that line, it's an older code, but it checks out. They cut to the code, and it's like this black and white reel of, like
Oh my god.
it's pretty funny. Um, Anyways, sorry, side tangent, but, the plan is also to dress at Rampart up in this captain's gear and have him essentially escort the Bad Batch with their newly refurbished imperialized armor into the place where they need to be. Uh, and so, by the way, when they were removing their stuff from the armor, there was this sense of like, oh man, like they're getting rid of all the cool,
Yeah.
uniqueness of the Bad Batch armor with the specific markings. But got to do what you got to do for the sake of the espionage mission that it felt like we were on during today's episode. So, um, and kind of just to skip over just a little bit of what was going on with the kids at this point for the sake of continuity. The crew lands on the Imperial dock ship, and they're confronted by this lieutenant, and you're like, "Oh man, what's gonna happen?" Of course, Rampart steps up and pulls rank on the lieutenant, so that they can enter the base, and the lieutenant immediately is like, "Oh, sorry, sir, sorry." Um, which later that comes back to bite them a little bit, and Wrecker has to do what Wrecker does. Uh,
Do record things.
yeah, yeah. But before Wrecker incapacitates the lieutenant, Hunter stuns an engineer, and Echo starts getting the coordinates for them using his little what are we calling Echo's hand? Like I call it an R2 hand. I don't know
An
what the
arch hand.
proper
Okay.
term is.
I was like Swiss Army knife hand. You know, maybe
Okay. Okay. But
skeleton
yeah,
key hand.
what'd you say?
Skeleton key
Oh,
hand. You know, one of
skeleton
those.
key. Uh, but yeah, that's kind of a handy tool that Echo has. But
That's handy. Yes.
I did that completely on accident, by the way. I'll be here all day though.
Nice.
Yeah, Echo's handy tool. Haha. Meanwhile, Wrecker, like we said, incapacitates the lieutenant on the ship. And they find out during this time that the coordinates are given after takeoff, which is something that apparently Rampart knew but didn't think worth divulging, or maybe he had forgotten about. Not exactly sure, but so because the coordinates are given to the ships going to Tantus after they've taken off, that means they need a new plan. And so rather than the original plan that they had hoped to go with, their new plan is to jump onto the ship going to Mount Tantus. But Rampart quickly is like, "You guys, that's like you can't do that. There's no way that's gonna work."
Right.
And so what they need to do is in order to attach themselves to the vessel has to have disabled proximity sensors, which Echo volunteers to do because he's the handy guy. Haha. And the rest of the crew will then
Created a
attach.
monster.
Yeah, you created a monster. I'm gonna use that joke so many times now. And then the rest of the crew will attach themselves to the vessel in order to go to Mount Tantus. So, um, yeah, in terms of this sequence with the Bad Batch, I personally preferred the Bad Batch scenes to the Omega scenes in this episode. Did you feel similarly to that, or did you like the Omega stuff more?
I mean, yeah, I definitely like because this was much more action packed. There was more going on with the Omega stuff. There was a little bit of a little you're scared for a little bit, but with what was going on with the Bad Batch here, there was even a moment where I'm like, "Oh, this is kind of complex, man. I hope they are able to figure this out." I know it is the Clone Force 99, and I should have never doubted them, but still, there was a little bit. They kind of threw it together, and I was worried like somebody would be left behind at some point, but
Mm,
we come to find out that it was successful.
yes, indeed, indeed. Uh, well, will it remain successful in the beginning of
Yeah.
episode 14, though? That's another question. Um, so kind of jumping back to the Omega situation with the rest of the high M count kids and Emery and the other scientist Scald. Omega is seen like kind of sneaking off to her, not sneaking really, but just walking to her bed in her little area. And Scald sees this, and so immediately she's like, "All right, I gotta go check." Because Omega's not with the other kids. She goes to check, and while she's going to check, this is when Omega's, like, using this. You mentioned it was like almost like an escape from Alcatraz scene. She's, like, using this little thing to try to, like, whittle out the panels like a spoon in Alcatraz, but, manages to get the wall panels on just in time, and Scald walks back into the room and, like, "Okay, maybe she was just chilling here." When in reality, she's planning the big escape. Um, so yeah, these wall tiles, I feel like that is such poor
Design.
poor poor design, very poor engineering on the part of the Empire. If we're gonna be putting prisoners in cells, we should
Yeah.
probably look into that Imperial
For
engineers. I don't know.
something called the vault, you would expect it to be a little bit more secure.
Yeah,
Especially
exactly.
especially especially from the inside.
Yeah, yeah. But this is really like the fullness of the Omega storyline that we got from this episode. We really didn't see much after this, and really the rest of the episode was all centered around the Bad Batch. And so, quickly after this scene with Scald and Omega, we cut back to the Batch, and Rampart, of course, is still worried that the plan is not going to work. But nonetheless, Echo manages to get onto the vessel in what was some very cool stealth, acrobatic, James Bond-esque moves. I was enjoying this scene very much while we were doing our live watch through.
Will
So he
say
gets on.
when
Yeah, yeah,
the droids were getting sucked up, I was
yeah,
really hoping he was gonna get sucked up by that as well. Not like climb into it, but like there was that little like chute or whatever that all the R2 units were getting sucked up
yeah.
into. I was like, if he gets sucked up into this, this is gonna be great.
Well, I think like they don't show it, but I feel like that's the implication is that he did
Mhm.
go up that tube. That yeah, but I
Right,
think it would
yeah.
have been funny if they would have shown it. Yeah, seeing like Echo just sitting there at one moment and the next moment, yeah, yeah, exactly. So Echo sneaks onto the ship in the same way that the droids were being sucked up, of course. Uses his mechanical hand because he's a very handy guy to disable the.
I'm
Just
sorry.
can't, I can't make that joke anymore. I feel like I'm gonna lose my train of thought every time. He disables the proximity sensors, which allows Hunter to approach this Imperial vessel headed towards Tantus. Before Echo is able to give the all clear because they're about to jump to light speed and go into hyperspace, which was, I thought, the coolest moment of the episode. The timing between when they attach themselves to the ship and when they jump into hyperspeed was like a split second. A very very cool end to the episode, of course. And so I was so probably more so than most of the episodes this season. I was so immersed in this scene that it ended, and I thought, wait, it's over. Like I was so sure there was going to be like 5 more minutes of the episode, but nonetheless, that was how the episode ended. The Bad Batch, Hunter, Wrecker, Echo, and Crosshair and Rampart all attach themselves to this Imperial ship headed towards Tantus, where Omega has begun the escape from Alcatraz with all of the other high M count children, Eva, Jax, Sammy, and Bairn. Where we're going to end up 2 episodes from now, who knows? I'm assuming it's going to be quite a fun ride. If you're looking just at this episode, though, episode 13, I think we were both kind of in agreement that we liked this week's episode more than last week's episode. What if you were to grade it or rank it? What would you give it out of 10?
I mean, I'll stick with my 8 that I gave after the reaction. Definitely an episode that needed to happen once again. Since they are apart, they're not going to automatically be together again. I see that, especially when you introduce Rampart into the mix. There has to be the finishing of that particular story, so he had to be able to take them where they needed to go. If this was like a 40-minute episode, then maybe you're able to reunite them all together. But in the course of 26 minutes, I think this episode was, there's no way that you're able to reunite the entire crew together. So a necessary episode. For that reason, I bring it a step down, because it's just like, oh, I thought last week was the necessary episode. Now you're gonna give me another one. So, but either way, it was definitely better than last week. But not but I would much more enjoyed this one, especially the spy. All the spy things that were going on with this. So I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say the piece that made this week better was that it felt like espionage the whole time. Like there was deception, there was trickery. This whole like at any moment something could go wrong if they were discovered and Rampart's disguise didn't work, or you know. By the way, producer Gibbo pointing out that you in your description or your ranking for this week's episode said but.
I got butt spot. If you don't know what butt spot is, that's exactly what just happened to me.
The double butt from Joey in this week's, ranking.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, just the spying and the espionage and the secrecy and the deception and the plan going wrong at any moment could potentially cause total failure. Just that suspense that was kind of present throughout the episode sort of elevated the overall vibe and feel of the episode, I would say too. But having said that, I'm gonna go with an 8 out of 10, just like you. I considered 8.5. I feel like I could
Same.
have gone there, but just not enough like unexpectedness to merit something that is quite that high. So I feel like an 8 out of 10 is very good for this episode. I don't know if we've given anything this season a 10 out of 10 yet. Maybe we gave one episode,
Mm.
but I really want a 10 out of 10.
Yes,
If
please.
not next week, then the finale. Which by the way, I hope the finale is longer than just the 25 minutes or
I'm
whatever. I
sure it will
want
be.
I want like a 60-minute finale. Is that too much to ask? I don't
Oh, not at
know.
all.
I'm really looking
If
forward to it.
here's where I'll say, if they would have already started Omega's escape, like
Right.
let's say when she was like, digging out there, and let's say Scald caught her, and then the kids do this force thing that like incapacitates her, then I would give it probably a 9, to be honest,
Right.
because then you would already have started that way. Everything doesn't have to be exactly the same where it's just like we're starting to get to a point. If they would have just jumped the gun a little bit with Omega's story, then I would have been like, okay, this is a 9.
Yeah, the kids showing force sensitivity, or Omega for that matter, would have just been that extra spiciness to this episode, like, "Ooh, okay, I see where we're going."
Exactly.
But nonetheless, 8 out
But
of 10s from both
but
of
but
us.
but
But but let us know what your thoughts are either on the socials or in the comments of the video version of the podcast, what you would grade or rank this week's episode. What are you most looking forward to in the last two episodes of The Bad Batch Season 3? Before we preview what we're going to be talking about next week, I did have one question for you, Joey. In a recent statement, the actress for Omega, Michelle Ang, said that Omega originally had a very different ending that would have seen the character set on a path that it could have made her a major player in Star Wars canon. Instead, however, the writers changed the ending to one that she described as bittersweet. However, she expressed in a podcast interview her hope that Omega's ending would still have a great impact on the future of Star Wars storytelling. What do you make from those statements?
oh,
Does that
I don't
does
like
that change
well
what you think might happen to Omega?
one, I don't like the word bittersweet.
I know, right?
I don't like the use of that word. I'm kind of saddened that it's not going to be as big as it was supposed to be,
Mhm.
because I really would have liked to see Omega continue on in the Star Wars universe as a major player because of the whole clone Palpatines, everything like that. So I feel like we kind of got robbed from that. I'm curious of why the decision, but I think the bigger picture here is that, yeah, they've kind of watered down something at this point. So I'm a little concerned now as to what that even means.
Yeah, maybe, and also it begs the question, will we ever get to know perhaps what the original ending would have been?
Come on, Dave, let us know.
Come on, Dave. Well, having discussed all of that, we would love to pose to each of you listening and watching. This is kind of a throwback question from a few episodes back when we got to see Palpatine. We want to pose the question: will we see any of the clone Palpatines in the final two episodes of the Bad Batch? Let us know by voting in the weekly polls, either here on the YouTube community tab or over on X. You can vote in either place, and the results will be displayed on next week's episode of the podcast. Is Project Necromancer just going to be a name drop, or are we going to see a little bit more about what that's all about in next week or the following week's episode of The Bad Batch? Again, will we see any clone Palpatines? Let us know. Which also leads us into our bringing up next week's episode discussion, episode 78. We're going to be talking about episode 14 of The Bad Batch, our breakdown, review, and discussion. Same place, same time next week. Hope to have you all listening there for that one as well. That after next week, we're going to be talking about hopefully a lot more speculative stuff going into the final week of Bad Batch season 3. I'm really looking forward. I think next week's episode is really going to set the tone for what kind of a finale we're going to get. So I'm pretty pumped for that. I don't know about you. But, yeah, lots to look forward to in the world of Star Wars, specifically, with all the excitement of Bad Batch. Lots around the corner with May the 4th, whether it's Lego Star Wars or Tales of the Empire. Gonna be a busy next couple of weeks. It's an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan. Looking forward to covering all of it and more here on Hoth Hangout. Glad to have you all along for the ride. And if you're not yet subscribed to the Hoth Hangout YouTube channel, we're gradually making our way towards that 500 subscriber mark. Thank you to the 415 of you who are currently subscribed over on YouTube. Appreciate you very much. Additionally, you can contact us with your Star Wars related thoughts or questions at hothhangout@gmail.com, and we'd love to showcase those here on the pod as well. The Hoth Hangout podcast is available anywhere you get your pods, including Spotify and Apple. And if you're listening on either of those platforms, or any platform that allows you to leave a 5-star review, leave a 5-star review. We would appreciate it very much. And it also does allow the Hoth Hangout podcast to more easily be discovered by other folks as well. You can catch us on the socials, whether it be X, TikTok, or Instagram. I just said that in a different order than I normally do, and it completely threw my brain off right there. You can also find us on our community Discord server. The Hoth Hangout Discord server recently launched. The link to join that is available in the show notes of today's episode. Definitely check it out and see what it's all about. We'd love to have you over there in the community Discord server as well. Joey, any last thoughts about Star Wars, Lego Star Wars, Bad Batch, Star Wars Outlaws, or anything else otherwise?
Legos I want, Outlaws I don't. Bad Batch. I'm excited to see the end of it.
Yeah, I think I have the same feelings about each of those three things. I might have to look into some of that Lego Star Wars that we talked about today. Recently
Ah,
made my technically got a gift for the Mandalorian helmet that I think I showed on the podcast. So
yes, you did. That's right.
my Lego Star Wars has my Lego Star Wars fancies have been tickled with that, so I might have to go for another one here soon. But anyways, let us know what your thoughts are on anything we've discussed today. Shout out to producer Gibbo for producing today's show and the Hoth Hangout podcast, all the videos and the assets. And Gibbo, the man who doesn't need a mechanical hand to do all the stuff he does. Also, yeah, I feel like Gibbo is also recommending you and I give our best TIE fighter noise to end today's episode.
Okay,
Uh,
I hope
are
we
you-
don't peek out here.
yeah, yeah. Who's going first? You or me?
You go first. You go first.
All right, here we go. I'm gonna do like the Doppler effect. You ready?
Oh, that's good. That's good.
All right, how was that?
It peaked a little bit, but it's
All
fine.
right, you're up.
Funny,
Oh
man.
man. Well, only on this podcast do you get TIE Fighter impressions to end an episode, but
Who did it better? Who did it better? Let us know.
yeah, let us know. Let us know. Shout out to George Lucas, shout out to Dave Filoni, and we will hopefully catch y'all in next week's episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast. Thanks for tuning into this one. Love and appreciate y'all so very much. And until next time, may the force be with you.